Greetings from Los Angeles, greetings from Los Angeles County, greetings from this side of the world, it's greetings from the West Coast, greetings from not Tokyo. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. I am here again trying to experiment with the layout and equipment and the like, so still settling into my new environment here in Los Angeles. But I've just done some test video making. So if you're interested, here is what I came up with. Again, still works in progress, still trying to get settled in, but rather than delete this stuff, I thought, it might be worthwhile just to put it up on YouTube. And if you're not interested, that's okay, no problem at all. But if you are interested, here's just what a little bit of what I was talking about. Again, just trying to have fun talking and set up the camera and the microphone and everything. So if you're interested, please, here you go. Did I ever tell my story about Ken Watanabe, the Japanese actor Ken Watanabe? So I don't have that many celebrity run-ins, but when they occur, that makes them even more memorable in my eyes, and so I tend to not forget them because they leave such an impact upon me. And one such celebrity run-in I had several years ago now was with the great Japanese actor Ken Watanabe, who appears in a number of films both in Japan and also in the United States and other places around the world. For example, and it was around the time of the film directed by Christopher Nolan, which is called Inception. He appears in that. Ken Watanabe appears in the film Inception. And it was around this time, if I recall correctly, that I was living in Tokyo at the time. And I was at the time going to a local sports club, a gym. And they had weights and a weight training area and a fitness studio and running machines and a pool, a locker room area. It was really nice gym, and I was a member there, and I like to exercise and I like to work out, so I would go to the gym fairly frequently, several times a week. And so I was really into, and I still am, really into working out. By the way, now I'm not able to go to the gym as much as I would like to. I wish I had more time to go to the gym now, but we'll see what happens as the time progresses and as things begin to settle down more here as I'm living in the Los Angeles area. But that's a story for another day. But now going back to this, which is, again, several years ago, I was going to a gym in Tokyo. And I was working out one day. I think it was just the very casual, fairly light weights, and I was in the workout area, and I went to the gym area where they had the platforms for the benches for sit-ups, and you have benches which can be set at an incline, at an angle, so that means you can try to maximize your workout in terms of crunches or sit-ups if you have an incline on the bench that you're using. And the gym that I had two of these benches side by side. So you could have one person on one bench and another person on another bench sitting next to each other, essentially doing sit-ups or whatever it is they wanted to do, that workout on the sit-up bench. And so I was there on one of the benches. The other bench next to me was empty. No one was sitting there, but I was middle of doing my workout with my sit-ups. And I think at the time I would do, say, a set number of reps and then take a break and then do another set and then take a break and do another set. So it was that kind of routine. So I think I was maybe, if I remember correctly, I was in the midst of doing my first set of sit-ups on the bench here. And then maybe I was just finishing my set here. And then I looked over, and when I started my workout on the sit-up bench, no one was there, I think. But then I finished my first set and I looked over, and indeed someone was now occupying that second bench. And I looked very closely, and it was this tall person who had what looked like a very shiny workout suit covering basically head to toe in this sort of silver material. It looked almost like heat-resistant material. That's what it looked like. I'm sure it was just a very fancy-looking, maybe workout attire. It looked very cool. It looked very, very cool indeed. But I looked very closely, and it was none other than Ken Watanabe. I couldn't believe it. Here I was in the middle of Tokyo, basically at this random sports club, doing sit-ups. And I look over to the sit-up bench next to me, and lo and behold, Ken Watanabe is doing sit-ups right there. Now, this was very interesting because I had never done sit-ups next to Ken Watanabe before. And ever since that time, I have never had the chance since then to ever do sit-ups next to Ken Watanabe before. So this was very interesting. I didn't have the courage to say hello or do anything like that. I really should have. I should have done that. I think back on that and now I regret not saying anything to Ken Watanabe at the time. It would have been really interesting to maybe do sit-ups while he was doing sit-ups next to me, and then maybe make a quote from the film Inception, as I mentioned, with Christopher Nolan. It would be interesting. I was doing sit-ups and I turned to Ken Watanabe and I say, I don't know, I bought the airline. It seemed neater, or something like that. That would have been really cool. I don't know if he would have gotten it or not, but I'm sure he would have. And I don't know if he would have said hello or thank you very much, or maybe he would have ignored me. I don't know. I'd like to think that he would have probably said hello or something like that. He seemed like a very, very nice gentleman. But he was to himself. I didn't want to bother him because it was obviously his own private time. He was here at this gym. So I didn't get the chance to say hello, or I didn't get a chance to express to Ken Watanabe just how much of a fan I was and am of his work. But I thought, oh gosh, I'm doing sit-ups next to Ken Watanabe, so I'm going to be sure to try to keep up with him. Or maybe if he's going to do, say, 10 sit-ups, I'm going to try to do 12. Or if he's going to do 15, I'm going to try to do 18. Or that kind of little game I was playing in my head. And I thought probably in the long run it probably was good, because it enabled me to be sure that I wouldn't essentially. I would try to do as many reps as I could doing the sit-ups, because I was there. My primary motivation was to be sure that I would tone up my abdominal muscles. So yes, Ken Watanabe was doing sit-ups, and I was doing sit-ups next to Ken Watanabe one time, and I was trying to do as many sit-ups or crunches as possible. And I think I did. I think I was able to achieve the goal of however many reps that I wanted to do at the time. It was a good thing. And so I was feeling, I think, quite sore afterwards, because I think I was overexerting myself and trying to, in a sense, impress Ken Watanabe on the sit-up bench. And I remember sitting there afterwards very tired, but he stood up after he had been doing however many reps or however many sets he planned to do. He stood up and walked away. He was very tall, very, very tall gentleman, much, much taller than I, and just a very tall, very, very physical presence. He has this really wonderful physical presence. You can feel his presence in the room, even if he is maybe just doing his own private time workout routine. Really quite an exceptional moment indeed for me. Yes, it was my first and only time to be able to do sit-ups next to the one, the only Mr. Ken Watanabe. So that was a very interesting experience indeed. Yeah, when I go to the movie theater, lately it's been few and far between, unfortunately. I haven't been able to go to the movie theater as much as I would like, but every time I go, I always try to go to the concession stand. It's not possible for me to go every single time, but I'd like to try to go, especially if I go to the movie theaters with my kids. They really love to eat popcorn there, and I love to eat popcorn as well, and I love to eat popcorn with my kids, so it's a win-win situation for all. They like popcorn, I like popcorn, I like to eat popcorn with people who like to eat popcorn, so it's all good at the end of the day. So I like to get the popcorn, especially with the kids around. And then also getting a beverage, like maybe an iced tea one day, or an iced coffee, or maybe a soda, Coca-Cola, or Sprite, or maybe if I was in Japan, that would be like they'd have different types of sodas available there that would be like Japanese style sodas, etc. So it would depend. But the point is that I would always try to get concession stands, food and beverages if I could, because I really enjoy that stuff. That's part of the ritual. I'd always try to resist the urge to drink the majority of the beverage, really, because I tend to do that. I tend to drink the beverage quickly, not. I find myself maybe almost completing or finishing the beverage before, say, the first 10 minutes of the movie. I mean, that's taken into consideration. If you go to the movie theater, you get the promos at the beginning, you get some trailers, so that's already eating away at the time a good 20, 30 minutes sometimes at the, lately, so before you even get to the start of the movie. So I'm in there for about 20, 30 minutes and I'm drinking my drink. I always feel like I want to have my drink and I want to have it kind of sustain me throughout the entire film. So I always think I want to save a good portion of the drink while I'm in the film, and when I'm at the halfway point, or when I feel like I'm in the halfway point or getting through towards the final act, I want to be sure I still have the beverage in the cup holder, in the cup holder that's in my seat as I'm watching the film. I want to have that idea to rely upon, but every time I go into the movie theater, every time I try, or I sit down, I think today's the day when I'm gonna be sure to keep most of my beverage, or to maintain a steady pace of beverage drinking, so that I'll have a good amount left over for the final act of the film. I always think that when I sit down, but it never happens. I always tend to forget that little, say. A resolution that I always have when I sit down, and when I get into the trailers, or when I get into maybe the first minutes of the film, I'm just maybe already swept up perhaps, and so I find myself drinking the drink, and before I know it, I'm basically done with the drink, and all that's left over is the ice. And so maybe about when I'm watching the film and it's not quite halfway point, I'll maybe try to reach for my drink, and I realize, oh no, I've done it again. I've finished the drink when I told myself I wanted to sustain it as much as possible throughout the running time. So that's a little thing that I always try to do whenever I go to the movie theater, is to try to pace my drinking of the beverage. I suppose I could maybe solve that little issue by ordering a second beverage, or maybe having a bottle of water or something, so that's fine. But I guess maybe there's just something very magical about the concession stand, and there's something very magical about the drink at the concession stand, or the popcorn or something. It's just it's such a cool thing. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Yeah, it's just a little thing. I don't know. Yeah. If you're interested, if not, I totally apologize. And I've mentioned it before, but I was growing up in the 80s, and this was during the time of Blockbuster, and I lived in Connecticut for a number of years of my childhood. And so the Blockbuster video that I went to was the one in Norwalk, Connecticut. That was a really cool Blockbuster. As you walked in, I guess most of the Blockbusters had the same or similar layout, right? You walk in, and it was a huge place, and it kind of had the shelves arranged so you walk in, so you have the new releases along the outer rim of the store, starting with A, the letter A, and then going alphabetically down, and then occupying the middle parts of the room, this huge room. This layout would be a number of shelves, most of which would be devoted to VHS tapes, some of which would be devoted to video games. So that was cool. I remember the Blockbuster that I went to. This is where we saw the VHS tape of things like Tetsuo the Iron Man with the silver box. This was the North American release of this. And also, I mentioned this before, when I went to the Blockbuster and I discovered the film, Ingmar Bergman's film, The Passion of Anna. That's the English title. I rented it, and the person at the counter, the rental counter, was saying, "Oh, this person is renting Passion of Anna. This person is renting Passion of," something like that. I think because the person at the counter assumed, because of the title, that it might have been maybe an adult film, some kind of risque sex film or something. So maybe in the effort at trying to maybe embarrass me, just making a loud voice gesture saying, "Oh, this person wants to rent Passion of Anna," but um, yeah, it was in reference to the Ingmar Bergman film. So that was interesting. And then also you'd have the metal detectors of Blockbuster Video again as a means by which to combat any type of shoplifting or anything like that. So I always felt very nervous going through the metal detectors because once in a while they'd go off. They'd go off and nothing, again, maybe it would be because of a barcode or a little thing that from another store that I was just carrying in a bag that because I did my shopping at another store prior to going to the Blockbuster and just set off the alarm. And it's a loud alarm. So I'd always feel nervous going through those metal detectors at Blockbuster because what if something that I was carrying set off the alarm? So I'd always give a little, little breath before going through. And most of the time it would be fine. Once in a while it would set up, I don't know, like what it would be. Like maybe I bought a CD or something and the CD sticker was still stuck on the jewel case, and so maybe that set it off or something. I'm not sure, but once in a while that would happen. But it would be cleared up quickly, and I would be on my way. Those were the days in terms of Blockbuster. But I do remember too, my favorite video store at the time when I was a kid was not Blockbuster. Well, Blockbuster's great, don't get me wrong, but the one that I loved was my local video store. This is in Connecticut, and this is in the area of Connecticut, which is around Stamford, Darien, Rowayton area, for those who know, and around New Canaan, Connecticut as well. The video store that I frequented the most as a kid, my mom and my dad would take me there maybe almost every week, I think, would be this video store around Darien, Rowayton, which is called the Roxy. ROXY, the Roxy. That's a great name, the Roxy. And they'd rent out their videotapes using these wonderfully thick plastic clamshell style VHS cases that would open and close with that little extra sort of oomph to them, with a sort of soft, almost faux leather-like feel to them, a brownish color with a strip of paper around the bottom edge saying the Roxy and the address and phone number of the establishment. The Roxy. I loved the store, the Roxy. There was a small, most of it was VHS. It wasn't as big as the Norwalk, Connecticut Blockbuster, but it was pretty. It was huge to my eyes as a kid, whatever, 5 years old, 6 years old as a kid, going into the store, just wanting to go to the store every weekend to rent a video or to rent a movie. And so just the excitement going into the VHS store and seeing what titles I could get, it would be so great. And I remember, uh, I would say a good portion of my cinema loving life was forged there in the fire of the Roxy. Those are the days. So I remember seeing the poster of Eraserhead on the corner every time I walked into the store, or up there on the wall every time I walked into the store, or seeing the poster art, or the VHS cover art for titles like Zombie, Lucio Fulci's Zombie, We Are Going to Eat You, or Extra, that wonderful sort of, I think, EMI thick rectangular hard-edged box. That was great. Or titles like, oh gosh, I'm not sure. The Warner Brothers titles had that wonderful sort of dot matrix type of box, clamshell box, and sometimes they would be red or blue or yellow. So like Superman 2, I think I remember the case being red, I think. And then just other type like the Indiana Jones films, Nightmare on Elm Street films, and Scanners. There's a film, Night Mother, Morden, um, Police Academy. Police Academy films were really huge. I mentioned this too. I watched Police Academy films in the theater. I got one of my fond memories going to the movie theater around this time was going to see Police Academy 4, Citizens on Patrol. Citizens on Patrol, excuse me, COP, COP. Does anyone know Police Academy 4, Citizens on Patrol? COP, COP, Citizens on Patrol, Citizens on Patrol, Citizens, yes. So Commandant, what's his name? Lassard, right? Lassard. So, but anyway, yes. So the Roxy, this great video store. It was a slice of heaven This was a wonderful thing. And in particular, their science fiction and horror shelves were out of this world. Out of this world. Now, it would be just one of those things to be able to watch, say, Nightmare on Elm Street, or Friday the 13th, or Halloween. I mean, this was the time before. I mean, I was growing up in the 80s before Halloween 4 was a thing. It was, for me, I remember a time when Halloween 4 wasn't out yet. I remember a time when I remember the time when Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 was a new film. That was so exciting. And I remember the days of watching these titles too, like The Thing, or I remember being so scared I couldn't rent certain titles because being so scared. This is maybe during the Roxy age or during the Blockbuster age or other titles, maybe other video stores in my lifetime. But sometimes I would just be so scared to even contemplate watching a VHS or renting a VHS because of the box art really scaring me. So I remember feeling this way about something like Prince of Darkness, the John Carpenter film. I was so scared to rent that because the box art was so scary to me. It was just frightening. So I didn't watch that at such an early age. It came a little bit later, but there are other films that, yes, I watched at a fairly early age. I mean, not all horror films and science fiction films, but across the board. And I must say that this was, as I say, a slice of heaven. My cinema-loving life was forged in the fire here, and I am so glad for this. I'm really, really glad for this. You know, I understand that for each and every one of us, we have our own, say, cinema journeys, and we discover cinema in our own ways, in our own life, and in our own life circumstances, and in our formats. You know, some people maybe really found cinema, say, in a local movie theater where they lived, or maybe other circumstances along the way. Maybe other generations found cinema through the great constant accessibility of streaming services. Maybe others found it through, say, film clubs at their local communities, or universities or schools. For me, it was the Roxy. It was the Roxy in the 1980s. And this was, to me, one of the great cinema experiences of my life. And I will never, ever forget it. And I think, had it not been for the Roxy in Darien, Connecticut, or Rowayton, Connecticut, I would not be the person that I am today. So thank you to the Roxy.